Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen. In today's breakfast series, I'm going to show you how to make a classic North Indian breakfast, and that's a Puri, Pindi Chana and Gajar Halwa. Because Gajar is in season, the red Gajar is in season, I decided to make a Gajar Halwa along with it. Otherwise, a Suji Halwa would go well as well along with this breakfast. So, most important thing is making these elaborate breakfasts is using the right equipments and prepping as well. So without wasting any time, I'm going to show you how to make all these things in a very synchronous and easy way. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to make the Gajar Halwa, and for that I'm going to grate the carrots. And I have this food processor here, the MasterChef jar, but I'm going to load in the carrots, and the carrots get grated in just less than about 30 seconds or less than a minute depending upon the number of carrots you're grinding. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how it does that beautifully. And that's it, all our carrots are ground right now. So I'm going to remove it out of this and then show you how to make the delicious Gajar Halwa with some milk and some sugar and ghee. Now to start making the halwa, into my pan I'm going to add in the ghee. I'm going to first roast the grated gajar in ghee, and then once it becomes soft a little bit, I'll add some milk and then cook it in milk until all of it is absorbed. Okay, notice how beautifully the gajar is grated in my MasterChef jar. It's really quick to use, and that's why I love using this jar, So, okay, just going to quickly add the gajar and saute it until it becomes soft. It'll slightly wilt. It won't become too soft, but just a little bit for about a couple of minutes. You will notice that the color of the gajar is slightly changing at this point, and then it becomes from a nice orange, it becomes like a reddish color. At this stage you know that you're ready to add the milk. It was less than about 2 minutes. I'm going to quickly add the milk in, and typically what I do is I tend to add milk until I can see all the gajar floating in it. It's completely your choice. People add khoya as well, but I like to add milk because it keeps the Gajar Halwa light, and I add ghee later to give it the nice creamy texture. So now I'm going to cook the Gajar Halwa in milk until all the milk is completely absorbed, and this is going to take a good 10 to 15 minutes based on the amount of Gajar Halwa you're making. But for this quantity I showed you, about 10 to 15 minutes. Ensure that you keep stirring it occasionally so that everything gets combined and cooked evenly. So halfway through the cooking process, I'm going to add in a little bit of sugar. Now after this, you cook the Gajar Halwa until it all comes together like a halwa. Okay. Notice the Gajar Halwa is like come together beautifully. At this stage I'm going to add in the cardamom powder, elaichi powder. You can also add kesar if you want, and this cardamom powder is completely optional. It's because the gajar itself along with the milk and the ghee brings beautiful taste and flavors. In addition, notice that there is a little bit of creaminess already, and if you want it to be a little more creamy, then you can add just a little bit of ghee on the top and then give it a stir and cook for another couple of minutes, and then the Gajar Halwa will be ready. So now that, in fact, I'm just not going to cook it anymore. The Gajar Halwa is actually ready. I'm going to take it and serve it into a bowl and then proceed to make the Puri and also the Pindi Chole. Now to make the Puri, I'm going to quickly use my MasterChef jar once again. I'm going to add the Atta kneading blade, okay, and add it in, and I'm going to add in the flour, whole wheat flour, and a little bit of salt. Puri always tastes nice with a little bit of salt, and some Kalonji seeds, okay, and you can also add ajwain, Kalonji, pudina powder, palak powder, right, and all of these things to make your Puri. And close the jar and quickly turn it on and add water little at a time from the spout. Puri atta has to be a little more stiffer than the roti one, so I'm going to add in little water from the spout, okay, just a little bit. Now that the dough is come together, notice that I added water and the dough came together. I'm going to add oil. Oil is a very important ingredient for making the puri atta, that is the dough, because it makes it soft and also makes it non-sticky, because unlike the roti dough you dust it in flour, in puri you won't be dusting it in flour. So it needs a little bit of oil. So I'm going to add a little bit of oil into this so the dough sort of churns itself along with some oil. Okay, I'm going to run it once again. Now that the puri atta has come together, I'm going to take it out, allow it to rest for about 5 minutes, and in that 5 minutes I'll show you how to make the pindi chana, and then we'll come back to fry some hot puris. So for the pindi chole, I'm going to add in some oil into my pan, and just a little bit. And to this, I have some ingredients ready. That is finely chopped ginger is extremely important for pindi chole, right? And then I'm going to add in the onions and the green chillies, and I'm going to saute all these ingredients until the onions soften a bit. Now that the onions and the ginger are lightly softened, I'm going to add in the cinnamon stick, and I have some cardamom seeds, pods as well, along with the seeds. I just slightly crushed it up like that, and I'm going to add them whole, and I'm going to add in the remaining spices and my cooked kala chana. So I'm going to add the garam masala, the turmeric, the haldi, red chili powder, okay, just the 3 of them. And another most important ingredient which adds to the little bit of sourness is the amchur powder. You can also add lemon juice if you want, but I like the taste of amchur in pindi chana. And then of course the tomato puree. You can add chopped tomatoes, but the reason I like to use like a cooked tomato puree is that you don't have those little tomato strands that is coming out when your curry is cooked, right? So hence my preference of using a tomato puree. I'm just going to give all of these a quick stir, and once they get lightly sauteed a bit, I'm going to add in the cooked chana. So essentially I soaked the kala chana well for about 8 hours in the overnight, or about 8 hours, and then pressure cooked it for about 7 to 8 whistles, about 20-25 minutes. So it should be nice and firm, so when you press it, it should be soft. So that's the texture of how the kala chana should be. Okay, so I'm just going to add it in, and I'm going to cook the pindi chana until it gets into a nice semi-dry texture. So pindi chana is typically a little dryish and not like a gravy like our chana masala. So I'm going to nicely boil it until all the masalas get absorbed into the chana, and then gives a nice dry texture. So another most important ingredient, when I actually cooked the chana, I cooked it with a little bit of salt, but I'm going to add a little more salt now because a little salt is required. And check the salt before you add it, and then boil it until it becomes a nice, comes together really well. Notice that the pindi chana is perfectly cooked. I boiled it briskly and for some time, and then allowed it to simmer in the masala as well. It's thickened a little bit, it's semi-gravyish, and this is exactly how you want your pindi chana to be. In fact, after some time, if you leave it, it'll thicken up a little more. Now the last step is to add the finely chopped coriander leaves and give it a quick stir. Okay, so now that my pindi chana is ready, I'm ready to make my puris. The puri dough is resting here, so I'm going to roll it up into small circles and then preheat my oil and then show you how to fry them. Now to begin making the puris, what I did was my dough was ready, it was rested. After that I kneaded it well for about a couple of minutes and until it became nice and smooth, and I made small round portions of the ball and kept. So now for making the puris, it's important to grease the dough, and we won't be dusting it in flour. Grease the dough with a little bit of oil, and ensure your patlo, the place where you're rolling it as well, is greased with oil. And after that, just roll it slightly into a thin circle. It shouldn't be extremely thin, it should be slightly thick, and then keep it aside, and then preheat the oil, and then you can start frying the puris. Now that my oil is well heated, I'm going to add in the puris into my preheated oil, and then fry it until the puri puffs up. So it's important that you keep dipping the puri in oil and then keep putting oil over the puri so that it puffs up really nicely. Okay, so just flip it over and cook it on both sides until the puri is well cooked. Now that the puri is cooked, I'm going to drain the puri out of the oil and then fry the remaining puris until it's all done, and we'll be ready to serve our pindi chana. So I hope you enjoyed watching our breakfast series of how to make a classic North Indian breakfast, which is the puri, the pindi chana and the gajar halwa. Isn't it extremely simple to make? Try this for a Sunday brunch or a special weekend breakfast, or when you have friends and family over at your home. And when you do, don't forget to give your feedback in the comments below, because I will always be looking to hear back from you. So until then, until next time, happy cooking and healthy eating.